A cracking weekend of Premier League action, dominated by local derbies. Later on, we'll focus on Spurs against Arsenal. But first, there's a little matter of the Manchester derby as United take on City at Old Trafford. And things have changed slightly, haven't they, as the season has progressed regarding the status of these two sides. City still favourites to take all 3 points, but not as big as maybe we'd expect earlier on in the campaign. Don's still with us. Aage Fjortoft joins us as well. Jan, that big Norwegian's come in and ruined everything at City.
Yeah, absolutely. that is everything that happened wrong with Manchester City this season. Now, but as you said, this is going to be a very open game, and I'm impressed by Manchester United, how Ten Hag has turned around, and we've had some intense discussions here on the show. We were discussing, and there were some guests who are not there today saying, no, this is not so important. They're only playing bad teams, but they won 8 in a row now, haven't they? So if they should end up winning against Manchester City, it won't be seen as a surprise. A couple of months ago, it would be sensational.
What's wrong with City, Stevie?
I think he's tinkering too much.
Right.
You know, it's really, really difficult as a coach to get your team to play a certain way to not only dominate but outplay teams week in and week out. So I don't understand why you start touching it.
Right.
Why, you know, I understand if you start not getting the results you want, playing that way, then you kind of tinker with it just to sort of encourage everybody to take a step forward. I don't understand when you are playing a certain way and you've got partnerships, particularly, partnerships all over the field that are playing well together in different areas, and you start messing with it for no apparent reason when you're winning. That doesn't make any sense to me. So when things don't go your way and you're tinkering with what has gotten you to the position you're in, then you've kind of got yourself to blame.
Do you agree, Don?
A little bit, but I wouldn't read too much into the Southampton performance. I mean, Haaland on the bench, De Bruyne on the bench, Rodri on the bench, Calvin Phillips and one or two others proved that they're not going to get too many more starts. I think under Guardiola, his top men were on the bench. Gundogan got interviewed yesterday, Dan, and he said something that was very interesting. He said they've lost their sort of, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he said they've lost their appetite. Yeah. And they've lost their spark. And I don't think I've ever heard Gundogan or a Man City player say that under Guardiola, or a Bayern Munich player or a Barca player. So maybe, I don't know if it's a World Cup thing, or they're not playing great, or they haven't got their settled 11. I don't know what it is, but what I do know is I'm pretty sure and I'm confident they'll react against Man United. Do
you have that same confidence, Shane?
I have confidence that City will react against Manchester United just because they have to. And I think this is a City team that when they've needed a result in the league, they've got it. I think part of the issue is, and not for the first time, we've criticised or we've accused Pep of this, not for the first time as City manager or anywhere else he's been, of just overthinking things somewhat. Listen, he's spoiled for choices like no other manager in world football at City. And he's trying to play a balancing act with how many minutes people play and how he rotates his squad, when, to Stevie's point, sometimes the best thing is just put your best 11 out there and let them play. And let the back end of the season, and we all know how important the Champions League is to Manchester City and how they've come unstuck, let that part figure itself out. Right now is not the time to be worrying about who's got minutes and the World Cup break and everything else that has gone into this season. Pick your best 11, let them play, let them find a rhythm. You can bring others in and out without too much disruption. But he seems to be his own worst enemy at times. But this result, a derby, is probably exactly the game they need to respond.
Stevie, Shaka and Don all going for a 2-1 victory for Manchester City. Jan thinks it's going to be 2-1 for United. Why, Jan?
Because I like their shape. I like the way that they can still play at home. And Old Trafford won't expect them to be a magnificent team. They can play more on on the opposition. I mean, Manchester United traditionally have to make the game. They don't do that as much as they used to do. They got some players in form, with Rashford being brilliant, and they have stopped conceding goals, which has been very impressive. And I'm looking forward to the big duel there with Martinez and Varane, whoever tried to stop Erling Haaland, which they didn't make in the first game with 6-3.
Why are you saying that Jan is so wrong, Don?
Just because of the quality that City have got, and they rested so many players for the Southampton game. Jan's right in bringing up the 6-3. The 6-3 was never a 6-3. It was a 6-0 or a 6-1 until City just took their foot off the gas. But in my opinion, I still think Man City are favourites.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.